Whores. All right, Shabbat Shalom. Why? Why not? Whatever. It's 13th of Shabbat, 5786, Saturday, January 31st. We're just gonna roll with it, baby. Like Steve Winwood, roll with it, baby. All right. So, no one really knows for sure. Elevate, Elu, Divrei, Elohim, Chaim. But this is the Mazor we live by, and you just do whatever the fuck you want. Do as thou wilt, just don't fuck up. All right. I wanted to say this before I started. Kabbalah sucks, and everything sucks. Really? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I was doing a lot of singing, and I think people will find this funny. Elvis, who like became like arguably the biggest music sensation of the 20th century, arguably. There's Frank Sinatra, there's the Beatles, but arguably Elvis, bigger than both of them, and everybody else. Failed music, and allegedly for kids, I failed music, and I'm not saying I'm Elvis, but better, obviously. I also failed, perhaps foreign language and Bible. So I don't know if you're learning from the right guy. I didn't fail. Did you really? Yeah. Why? Cause it's boring as fuck. Foreign language. I probably just didn't try hard enough. I was seventh grade. There's just a lot at once. I changed schools. I was making new friends. Playing soccer. It's the only time in my life that I was academically eligible to play any sport. That's another thing. People may wonder, hey, Rabbi, like, you talk about being athletic, and we obviously see how athletic you are. You're a sports dynasty. Your agility, you ooze agility. I'm like, yeah, I know, girl. But I was never academically eligible to play any sports. Really? When I get older, I would be, but um, you had you had three Fs in seventh grade. I think so. You're not making that up. You failed music. Yeah, and I would say the big reason why I failed music, I was ill prepared. I didn't know how to play piano, and I didn't really know anything about a piano. And I can tell you, the kids who did badly in the class, we just didn't have pianos at home. We didn't have keyboards. Perhaps we'd never seen a keyboard. Piano wasn't a thing. My cousins had a piano. It was just like a thing. Like everybody's piano just kind of sits there. Very few people like actually take piano. My mom took piano. My mom can play piano, but uh, and I always wanted to learn, but it was never. So when the other kids were like learning music composition better, and they could use the piano as a tool to be able to like know where different notes were, the kids who did not have a piano were fucked. So Israel, if anything, get your kids the. I have like a folding piano that you've seen me use drive 118 miles an hour while playing. Um, get your kids a folding piano, and just so they know. And the other instruments, that was another thing why I did badly. We never had instruments. Even kid instruments are fine, like just plastic instruments or something that makes noise. I would say there was always an issue in our home that you never want to like piss off the parents. You never wanted to be super loud, and instruments are loud. And I can remember this is a sad thing. This is like a sad moment of my life, but I was trying to learn a song, the cuckoo. Really, yeah. And I didn't even want to learn it. I just played my own version on the recorder, and I was very stressed as a child. I could hear it. My parents never fought with each other. Really, I don't really remember that. Really, I mean, not really. Like we'll say, for these purposes, but they were just. I could hear them stressing, and I would sit on the stairs And instead of doing work, I would blast on that fucking recorder and I'd chew on it. I'd fucking chew on a fucking recorder. And I remember my teacher was like, "You chewed on this." I'd be like, "Yeah, bitch, I did." And I was just stressed. And I would blare on this fucking recorder, not knowing the right words, the right uh, notes. And I remember like the teacher would like show us how to play the song, and I would just it got more complicated at the end, and I was just not good at it. And there were other kids who were really really good because they played instruments their whole life. And I this is the first instrument I really ever had, aside from I had a keyboard as a little kid, so I shouldn't say I didn't have a keyboard. But it was a keyboard that I would use. I'll never forget this. This is always funny to me. Um, this is what I was at my grandparents' house, and I always wanted my grandparents to think I was super cool. And so I had this keyboard, and there was you play it, and it'd be like dun 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 whatever. And there was this mode on it though that you could turn on, and a it would automatically play a song for you. And I'd go to my grandparents and I'd be like, and they'd be like thinking I'm some kind of prodigy. And I'd be like, thinking I was really smart. And like, okay, and then I'd shut it off. I'd be like, no, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. It's just, and they were like, did you see that? Now they were like 80 years old. They're old. And if that's not old today, whatever. But and it isn't as old as it once was. But back then, when people are drinking every night and smoking cigarettes every day, that's old. Really? Yeah, everybody did that shit, kids. I don't think people understand how prevalent smoking was back in the day. Really? It was very common within Jewish households, within other households. Just these incredibly bad addictions. Anyway, and I'm thinking I'm so cool. So I went home one day and I didn't know this, but my great uncle brought my cousin to my grandparents' house, and my cousin got his hands on this. He's a little older than I was, and he got his hands on this fucking piano, and he was able to do the same thing. So then when I come back to my grandparents' house, they're like, "Hey, little Mozart, we're onto your fucking scam." And that was like the first time I want to say I was like dishonest ever to my grandparents, like, or anybody really. But I remember being like, "Oh, they're gonna love me so much if I could play this like this," but it didn't work like that. They're like, "Yeah, we saw." Anyway, is that the end of your story? No. Um. So just it's like one of those things. If I had the ability, I had children today. How would you raise them? Well, they'd be the best fucking kids ever. They'd be progeny. But what would you do? I would, my I don't want to say I didn't have this, but I would get them balls. I would get them golf clubs. I would like even plastic, just everything, plastic, everything. And what else? Tennis racket, pickleball racket, football, basketball, baseball bat. That'd be huge. Um, what else? What other sports are there? I would teach them about sports. That's another thing. Like I didn't know what cross country was until a lot of people don't, but I didn't even know what it was up until like I was an adult. Like, oh, you mean there's different types of running? I figured that, and I'd seen the Olympics, but I was always like, cross country never got anything, and my school didn't have a cross country team, even though it's the easiest sport to be able to manage. I think it's like you just need shoes and shorts. If you're a man, you need shoes and shorts. That's it, and you can fucking run. Okay, socks. Like it's shoot literally to be a cross country runner in a warm environment. You need shoes, socks, underwear, and shorts. Like you don't even need a shirt, and you just fucking run. And all right, really quickly, I'll just tell this. I got to get into this. I was running with a friend of mine who sub 4 minute miler, and he and I were never competitive when it came to running, but we could run at the same level, and we'd run like 10 miles, like really pretty far, sometimes like 13 miles, just for fun. The thing is, when you're running a lot, it just takes a lot of time. It really does. It's not like even about the once your body's in a certain position, it's not even about the pain or anything like that because you become numb to it. It's just, dude, I've got to fucking run for an hour and a half or whatever. It's like it takes a lot of time. And we were running past this college, and I was getting catcalled by chicks. And I remember being like, I heard you used this. This ain't bad. Anyway, what else would you get your kids? I'd get them um, music toys. But again, I'm not saying I didn't have that. It's just I remember I had a flute, I had a recorder, maybe I had a guitar. Here's the thing, never a real guitar though, but like maybe like a plastic guitar. Um, but my family loved music, but just wasn't. We just knew that like music wasn't going to be my thing. What was going to be my thing? I don't really know. I don't think my parents ever knew. Really? Yeah. And I'd get them computers very young. Like I would. Would you give your kid an iPad? I'd have them with that leapfrog shit really early, and I would figure out a way to lock down an iPad and give that fucking kid an iPad all the time, and they'd be learning and doing flashcards and all kinds of shit like that. I think that's really healthy. Um, if you can, if you give a child an iPad, I mean, I've had it in my life where I haven't had electronics, and then I had the opportunity to have a fucking tablet, and it was precious. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It was absolutely precious to me. And people get into their screen time and all this other shit. Dog, my parents would fucking. I'd just sit in front of fucking Sesame Street and like right up next to the TV, not right up next to it, but um, it was. That's just kind of how it was. I mean, so when people say screen time, they didn't have a word for that when I was a kid. It was called you're watching too much TV. That's what it was called. All right, come on, you got to get into this. I know, but these are like little anecdotes that I feel are going to be helpful. So, what would you tell Israel? I would say there just needs to be like a starter pack that's affordable. That's all the. What other instruments do you have? Drums? I'd have drums. I had a little drum though, so I don't want it to sound like I didn't have this stuff. It's just I didn't. I wasn't able to make the connection between that and music composition. And can you read music? Yeah, I mean, I can look at music and tell you what the notes are in either like treble clef or bass clef. Really? Yeah. I used to be able to do it better. That's the one thing that I learned. It was every good boy does find EGBDF and FACE. Like that's all I fucking remember. And that's all I really needed to know. But I wasn't able to put that on a keyboard. And that was a big thing. Like there should be keyboards. I've seen them before. I even bought them. Like where they put it's like an overlay that you have the keys. But I just wasn't able to make that connection. And um, when you're starting like when things are it's just one thing after another. I went from moderately challenged in school to overwhelmingly challenged, way too much homework, way too much. That's another thing. If anybody ever sees this in the future, I would be a very major proponent of no homework. Homework should be time for home. You should be with your family. You should be able to play sports. School, there's enough time in school for teachers to be able to get all the homework done, and uh, it's overwhelming. There are ways I feel that, because here's the thing. Here's what happens. You have one kid who goes home to a two-parent household and has a computer and has a laptop and has or PC and a laptop and has uh, parents who went to excellent schools and they might even have a tutor or whatever. And then you got some kid whose mom's working at Walmart who is like a latchkey kid, doesn't have any chance or very little chance. And he's got to babysit his siblings, or she's got to babysit her siblings. And then Monday morning, they are supposed to come in and have the exact same work done. That is totally not fair. And that's where kids get dropped back. And, all right, anything else you want to say about this? Uh, yeah, I would just be an advocate. No more. We don't need homework. You're in school for 8 fucking hours. Get the shit done then. You don't need it. Like how would I just remember when I was in school, they would say each class is supposed to give you an hour worth of homework. Well, bitch, I've been in 6 classes today. That's 6 hours worth of homework. I get home at not right at 3. There's like fucking other shit. Like, maybe I might get home at 4 or something like that. So if I don't eat dinner, that means I'm done at 10. Like, that's ridiculous amounts of homework. They'd be like, well, 45 minutes to an hour. It's like, shut up. What if it takes me longer? What if one thing takes me longer? And another thing, um, I've never been good at memorizing things ever, 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 ever. And I have to really work hard to memorize things. I think harder than the average person. People are gonna say, you memorize shit all the time. It's come with a lot of work. And if you have a situation where you wouldn't have people if you have a situation where you have like let's say 2 assignments. One, you have to memorize something, and the other you have to do a worksheet or something. And some kids it might take an hour to memorize something. Other kids it might take 5 hours to memorize something, like to get it down really well. And maybe they never just even memorize. And then you expect that worksheet to be done on the same level. I feel that school has enough time to be able to teach children, and there should be no homework at all. Would you make it illegal? Yeah, I'd make homework illegal. I think a lot of kids would think that would be great. How do you get around that though? I mean, you could always study more. There's nothing against that, but you would not get in trouble if you did not, like, once you left from school, you would not get in trouble if you didn't do anything from that point until the next day. You might not do as well in school, but you wouldn't get in trouble. I can remember being in school, and I remember this one kid, very, I don't want to say very smart, he was the most diligent kid that we had. In terms, he wasn't that bright. I think he became some kind of fucking engineer at some government contractor or something. But I went to school with this kid for like 11 straight years, and he always did his homework, always did everything. Like, he didn't have a fucking personality to save his fucking ass, nothing, but always did his homework. And I was someone, fuck that shit. Anyway, and one day, and this is how teachers are, and they don't realize it. It's really unfortunate. They'll go up to the board and they'll be like, maybe like homework. I mean, it's different today, but like they'll be like, back in my day, they wouldn't even write it on the fucking board. They would just be like, all right, yeah, you have to read pages 100 to 200 by tomorrow. And they'd be like, okay, fine. But if there'd be like kids getting up and all kinds of other shit, and the teacher would not be on their A game, and they'd be like, oh yeah, you got to read pages 100 to 200, and like call out. And then the next day, half of the kids did it, half of them didn't, and the teacher's over there like, why didn't you do this shit? And it's like, motherfucker, all you had to do was write this on the board. Or if anything, we had this thing, this assignment book. Okay, no one ever used it except this one kid. Everybody would just write it in their notebook or something like that. But there's this assignment, and I remember this kid one time did not have his homework done for something, just one time. And wouldn't you know it, for the next 5 fucking years, whenever the teacher would go up and be like, all right, have a nice day or something, this kid would raise his hand and say, do we have any homework? Because he wanted to write in his book, because he didn't fucking, and his book was fucking pristine. And it was unbelievable. Anyway, I think today they send the homework like on a, it's like online, so like you don't have to write anything down. But I don't think you need that. I think I could teach school. Well, I have. I never gave out homework. Now it was for different reasons, but um there's enough time in school to be able to go through everything. If you're teaching efficiently, I'm going to finish with this. I learned American history, and I did not learn it in the way that I was supposed to learn it. And I know it pretty well. And I had a talented teacher, but this is how the teacher would teach. For 2 hours, he would go up to the board and just write notes. And we were to be copying those notes. And I would argue with him a lot. Why don't you just make a copy of your notes, give them to us, and then we can discuss them? Because that's how, it wasn't exactly how it's supposed to work, but we were supposed to have many discussions. And this teacher did not want to have the discussions. He didn't want a bunch of ninth grade boys who were going to argue, but the other class got to argue. And I feel like we were at a disadvantage. Once we got their teacher the next year or something like that, or maybe 2 years later, we loved it. We loved it because it was like engaging and stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, my parents did not pay for me to do this. They're not paying for me to sit here and fucking copy notes. Like, and it would be every single day. All we would do is copy notes. There would be no discussion or very little discussion. And this teacher, he and I many times did not see eye to eye. And actually, I had a friend of mine and I who went to the dean of uh, all the boys, and we complained and we said, look, this is not how it's supposed to go. The other class is having open debates and discussions on these topics, and they don't have to sit there and take notes on that. And here's what would end up happening. Teacher would go up to the board and I would fucking play around. We did all kinds of shit. We had little army men. Like, we're fucking way too old for army men, but we'd be shooting them at each other. There's a new kid. I'd fucking kick this kid. Really? Yeah. Why? I would do this thing where I'd go like this, and because he'd make this huge reaction. You couldn't keep your hands to yourself. Dog, you wouldn't be able to either if you had this fucking kid next to you. He would just, anyway. But it would be like, dude, teacher's back's turned. It's distract. Let's fucking fuck it up. Anyway, is that the end of your story? You've got a lot to review. I know. So what would you do? I'd get kids instruments. I'd get kids lockdown tablet where they couldn't view the whole internet, but they could. At what age would you let them see the whole internet? Is a good question. Maybe 18 or whatever the age of consent is. If they're gonna get it other ways, that's fine. But I would have software. I would be the parent who would have software that would lock shit down. I think. Really, yeah. If they could, like, I don't know. That to me, there should be like a free service in the United States where you download the software and it locks your shit down. And they're paid currently, but I don't understand that. All right, is that the end of your story? No, I want to talk about getting your kids instruments, teaching them the music theory early, and how the different notes on the different instruments work. And like that would be another thing. And just becoming not well, ambidexterity is important. Um, dude, I gotta get in. Anyway, anything else you want to say? No. That's fine. All right. Are you done? No. Okay, we've got fucking Yiddish to go to review. So I find it hilarious that, like, I mean, I don't know how talented I am with music because I'm just like lip syncing and using air instruments, but I'm probably using music more than most of the people with whom I went to school. All right, so we had Chai. That's what Rebbitzin says after she gets stood by this motherfucker. That something so pleasurable that it could revivify the dead. Halavai, that means like, if only I wish. Yiddish cup, that's Jewish head. Yenta, it's kind of a fetish of mine. It's a talkative bitch. Tachlis, that's brass tacks, motherfucker. Nosh, that's what I do. I snack on pussies. Bashert, okay, so there's Bashirter, which is male soulmate. Bashirta, which is female soulmate. Bashert is soulmate. Mishmash, mishmash. I was taking a bath. That's like a bunch of shit. Everybody knows that. Bupkiss, that means nothing. That means beans. Good yontiv, that means good holiday. Chaim means to life. Parv. This is an interesting one. I mean, because it looks like it should be parve, but it's parv. Pronounce parv or do people do pronounce it parve? I've never heard of parve. Parv is Yiddish and by extension Hebrew is a Yiddish and by extension Hebrew term for something that is neither meat nor dairy. This is significant because Jewish law does not allow one to cook or consume meat together with milk products. Parve food, however, may be eaten together with both meat and milk. Examples would be water, eggs, fish, and anything that is plant derived, such as fruit, nuts, and veggies. Thus, a cookie labeled as parve can be eaten together with cream laden coffee or after a steak dinner. Since meat and dairy utensils are also kept separate, dishes that are used for neither meat nor dairy are known as parve. Some important parve information. Eggs. Although eggs come from an animal, eggs are still parve. Why? Think about it. Milk comes from an animal too, and it isn't considered meat. Yeah, but it is considered dairy. So, fish is parve. However, because of health concerns, the sages of the Talmud prohibit eating it with meat. There are varying customs about eating fish with milk. However, fish may be prepared on either milk or dairy utensils and eaten right before or after meat or milk with no concern, as long as one washes one's mouth out. There is a custom not to eat fish with milk, which you can, but like, what about lox? That's that's the thing. These these fucking rules make sense to a certain extent, and then they don't, and it's just like tradition. Be like, oh yeah, but that's just how we do it. Bread. Almost all bread is parve, recognizing that dairy bread could easily be taken for parve and eaten with meat and vice versa. The sages forbade the production of bread with milk or rendered fat unless it is clearly marked, or if such a small amount is produced that it will be served only to people in the know. Faux meat or dairy. Soy burgers and almond milk are often parve. Soy burgers and almond milk are often parve, but onlookers may be misled if they see you sipping milky coffee with meat or topping your burger with cheese, not realizing that milk or meat they are seeing is not real. Thus, the sages decreed that these products must be specially marked if they are to be consumed with something that appears incompatible. For example, an almond floating in your almond milk would allow you to serve it with a beef dinner. A more contemporary application would be to leave the almond milk container on the table so that everyone knows what it is. Other uses. In common parlance, parve has come to denote neutrality in other contexts as well. Here are some examples. I find both politicians equally boring, so my feelings about the election are pretty parve. I've learned to get along with my mother-in-law, but our relationship is still far from warm. You can say it's parve. So I have lots of stories, but one, my my mom and aunt and I were going to Steven Spielberg's mother's milkshake restaurant. It's known as the Milky Way. I've done videos from there. It's my favorite milkshake um, restaurant. It's really small, for pretty small. And as we're going there, I say, all right, so uh, we're going to a milkshake restaurant. My aunt and mom are like, okay. And I'm like, uh, well, we get there. And I we're talking or whatever, and the server comes up to us and I'm like, okay, what would you like? And I always get the same thing there, which is lasagna. Why? It's like the first thing that I ever got there, and I really liked it. And I don't even really, really, really like lasagna, but I liked it. And I'm somebody who would do that at a restaurant. If I find something I like, I will eat that from now until the day I die. God forbid. Okay. Um, and I'm looking, okay. And I hear my aunt go, "I'll have the cheeseburger," and I'm like, "What?" And I didn't see that there was an Impossible Burger on there. And the server's like, okay, well, how would you like that? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, cheeseburger? Where's there a cheeseburger on here? And why is that funny? Well, the cheeseburger, the burger part would be parve because it was an Impossible Burger, and the cheese on top was milkshake. It was a milkshake restaurant, and I was just shocked. I was like, how could you order a cheeseburger at a milkshake restaurant? Because it's on the menu. Anyway, that was a really great story, Rabbi. Kind of boring, but really great. All right. I have a dream that all food will be parve someday. Really? Yeah, I think we could do it. I think I could figure it out. If I could figure it out, other people could figure it out. All right. Italian Kabbalists.
Also Moses Hayim, Moise Vita, Moses Hayim Orlizzato, 1707 May 16, 1746, also known by the Hebrew acronym Ramchel, or Ramel, was an Italian Jewish rabbi, Kabbalist, and philosopher. Biography. Early life. Moshe Hayim Lazzato was born in 1707 in the Jewish ghetto of Padua, Republic of Venice, the son of Jacob Vita and Diamond Lazzato. He received classical Jewish and Italian education, showing a predilection for literature.
You know, I also might have failed math in seventh grade too. I think I failed like 4 things, 3 or 4 things. Like my first semester, I was adjusting to a new school. All the kids generally were pretty new to me, and they all kind of knew each other. And
Moshe Hayim Lazzato, Hebrew, also Moses Hayim, Moise Vita, Moses Hayim Lazzato, 1707 May 16, 1746, also known by the Hebrew acronym Ramchel, or Ramel, was an Italian Jewish rabbi, Kabbalist, and philosopher. Biography. Early life. Moshe Hayim Lazzato was born in 1707 in the Jewish ghetto of Padua, Republic of Venice, the son of Jacob Vita and Diamond Lazzato. He received classical Jewish and Italian education, showing a predilection for literature at a very early age. He may have attended the University of Padua and certainly associated with a group of students there, known to dabble in mysticism and alchemy. With his vast knowledge in religious lore, the arts, and science, he quickly became the dominant figure in that group. His writings demonstrate mastery of the Tanakh, the Talmud, the rabbinical commentaries and codes of Jewish law and Kabbalah. Poetry and literature. At an early age, he began a thorough study of the Hebrew language and of poetic composition. He wrote epithalamia and elegies, a noteworthy example of the latter being the dirge on the death of his teacher Cantarity, a lofty poem of 24 verses written in classical Hebrew. Before age 20, he had begun his composition of 150 hymns modeled on the biblical psalter. In these songs, composed in conformity with the laws of parallelism, he freed himself from all foreign influences, imitating the style of the Bible so faithfully that his poems seem entirely a renaissance of biblical words and thoughts. They provoked the criticism of the rabbis, however, and were one of the causes of the persecutions to which Lazzato was later subjected. R. Jacob Poppers of Frankfurt on the Main thought an unpardonable presumption to attempt to equal the anointed of the God of Jacob. Only 2 songs are known of which it can with certainty be said that they belong to Lazzato's psalter. In addition, 7 hymns by him which were sung at the inauguration of the enlarged Spanish synagogue at Padua appeared in the work Anukatam in Venice, 1729, but it is not certain whether they were taken from the psalter. As a youth, Lazzato essayed also dramatic poetry, writing at the age of 17 his first biblical drama, Shimshon Euphilistim, of which only fragments have been preserved. In another work of his, this youthful production foreshadows the coming master. It is perfect in versification, simple in language, original and thoughtful in substance. This first large work was followed by the Lashon Lemudim, a discussion of Hebrew style with a new theory of Hebrew versification, in which the author showed his thorough knowledge of classical rhetoric. It is in a certain sense a scientific demonstration of the neoclassic Italian style, in contrast with the medieval. There is a vast difference between Lazzato's style, which recalls the simplicity, smoothness, and vigor of the Bible, and the insipid, exaggerated, and affected work of his contemporaries. The book, dedicated to his teacher Bassani, was printed at Manchu 1727, with a text which deviates from the manuscript formerly in the possession of M.S. Girandi. In the same year or somewhat later, Lazzato wrote his allegorical festival drama Miktalas, or Tamat Yesharim, on the occasion of the marriage of his friend Israel Benjamin Bassani. This 4-act play, which shows Latin and Italian as well as biblical influence, illustrates the victory of justice over iniquity. It is masterly in versification and melodious in language, the lyrical passages being especially lofty, and it has a wealth of pleasing imagery reminiscent of Guarini's Pastor Fido. The drama was edited by M. Letteris, and published with notes by S. T. Lazzato and prolegomena by Franz Delitzsch, Leipzig, 1837. Controversy. The turning point in Lazato's life came at the age of 20, when he claimed to have received direct instruction from an angel, known as a Maggid. While stories of such encounters with celestial entities were not unknown in Kabbalistic circles, it was unheard of for someone of such a young age. His peers were enthralled by his written accounts of these divine lessons, but the leading Italian rabbinical authorities were highly suspicious and threatened to excommunicate him. Just decades earlier, another young mystic, Sabbatai Zevi, 1626-1676, had rocked the Jewish world by claiming to be the Messiah, although, at one point, Zevi had convinced many European and Middle Eastern rabbis of his claim. The episode ended with him recanting and converting to Islam. The global Jewish community was still reeling from that, and the similarities between Lazato's writings and Zevi's were perceived as being particularly dangerous and heretical. In some of his revelations, Lazato even described Moses, Abraham, and Elijah introducing themselves to him and calling him my mentor. This infuriated many rabbis, especially Moshe Hadges, who considered his writings heretical and ordered the burning of all his writings. Other rumors were spread that Lazato had authored a new book of Psalms that was meant to supplant the Davidic Psalms in the Messianic age, a claim which Lazato and his mentor Yeshayahu Bazin vigorously denied. These writings, only some of which have survived, are often misunderstood to describe a belief that Lazato and his followers were key figures in a messianic drama that was about to take place. In this contentious interpretation, he identified one of his followers as the Messiah, son of David, and assumed for himself the role of Moses, claiming that he was that biblical figure's reincarnation. Departure from Italy. After threats of excommunication and many arguments, Lazato finally came to an understanding with the leading Italian rabbis, including his decision not to write the Maggid's lessons or teach mysticism and hand over all his writings to his mentor Yeshayahu Bazin. In 1735, Lazato left Italy for Amsterdam, believing that in the more liberal environment there, he would be able to pursue his mystical interests. Passing through Germany, he appealed to the local rabbinical authorities to protect him from the threats of the Italian rabbis. They refused and forced him to sign a document stating that all the teachings of the Maggid were false. But the controversy was not entirely over yet. Rumors were spread that Lazato's mentor Yeshayahu Bazin sympathized with his pupil and even sent him back some of his writings to publish. This caused a major uproar and many heated letters passed between Moshe Hadges and Yaakov Poppers and Bazin threatening to undermine the latter's authority if he did not hand over the box with Lazato's writings to the rabbis of Venice. In one letter, Moshe Hadges, Lazato's staunchest opponent, calls Lazato a wretched renegade who betrayed his religion and lost his portion in the world to come, calling and urging for the burning of all his writings. Bazin was forced to hand over Lazato's writings to Poppers, which he subsequently buried deep in the ground and burnt some of the writings he deemed heretical. Amsterdam. When Lazato finally reached Amsterdam, he was able to pursue his Kabbalah studies relatively unhindered, earning a living as a diamond cutter. He continued writing but refused to teach. It was in this period that he wrote his magnum opus, the Mesilat Yesharim, 1740, essentially an ethical treatise but with certain mystical underpinnings. The book presents a step-by-step process by which every person can overcome the inclination to sin and might eventually experience a divine inspiration similar to prophecy. Another prominent work, Derek Hashem, The Way of God, is a concise work on the core theology of Judaism. The same concepts are discussed in brief in a smaller book called Mamre HaIkarim. The English translation of this book is now available on the web with the title Essay on Fundamentals. Dr. Buna, The Knowing Heart, also found its existence in Amsterdam as the missing link between rationality and Kabbalah, a dialogue between the intellect and the soul. On the other hand, Derech Tevuna, The Way of Understanding, introduces the logic which structures Talmudic debates as a means to understanding the world. One major rabbinic contemporary who praised Lazato's writing was Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna, the Vilna Gaon, 1720-1797, who was considered to be the most authoritative Torah sage of the modern era as well as a great Kabbalist himself. He was reputed to have said after reading the Mesilat Yesharim that were Lazato still alive, he would have walked from Vilna to learn at Lazato's feet. He stated that having read the work, the first 10 chapters contained not a superfluous word. Lazato also wrote poetry and drama, although most of it is seemingly secular. Some scholars claim to have identified mystical undertones in his body of work as well. His writing is strongly influenced by the Jewish poets of Spain and by contemporary Italian authors. The cantor of the Sephardic synagogue in Amsterdam, Abraham Caceres, worked with Lazato to set several of his poems to music. Acre, Israel. Frustrated by his inability to teach Kabbalah, Lazato left Amsterdam for the Holy Land in 1743, settling in Acre. 3 years later, he and his family died in a plague. Legacy. Burial site. The site of his tomb is unknown. A third-hand account claims his burial place to be near the Talmudic sage Rabbi Akiva in Tiberias, northern Israel. Other scholars claim to have identified his tomb in the Jewish cemetery of Kafr Yasif. It is noteworthy that many rabbis have made some comparison between the Ranchel and Rabbi Akiva, both during and after his life. Some have gone as far as to claim that the Ranchel was a reincarnation of Rabbi Akiva. The Tiberias site has many more amenities than the Kafr Yasif grave, with an attached synagogue and tourist shops, making it far more popular. Synagogue in Acre. Lazato's original synagogue in Akko was raised by the city's Bedouin ruler, Zahir al-Umar, in 1758, who built a mosque on top of it. In its place, the Jews of Akko received a small building north of the mosque which still functions as a synagogue and bears Lazato's name. Religious writings. A century after his death, Lazato was rediscovered by the Muser movement, which adopted his ethical works. It was the great Torah ethicist, Israel Salinger, 1810-1883, who placed the Mesilat Yesharim at the heart of the Muser ethics curriculum of the major yeshivas of Eastern Europe. Derech Hashem, Lazato's treatise on Jewish theology, eventually came to be considered as an authoritative guide of Jewish theology. The work is a compilation of authoritative opinions found in Talmudic sources. Most of his writings were burned, though some did survive. From the Zaharic writings, the 70 Tikkunim Hadashim reappeared in 1958 against all odds. In the main library of Oxford, Arrangements of Thoughts, these Tikkunim explicate 70 different essential uses of the last verse of the Chumash. The 5 books of Moses, supposedly taught word by word in Aramaic by Lazato's Maggid. They parallel the Tikkunim HaZohar, rectifications of the Zohar, ascribed by some to Rabbi Simeon Bar Yache, the Rashbi, which describe the 70 fundamental understandings of the first verse of the Chumash, books of Moses. Secular literary legacy. The Hebrew writers of the Haskalah, the Jewish expression of the Enlightenment, greatly admired Lazato's secular writings and deemed him the founder of modern Hebrew literature. His cousin, the poet Ephraim Lazato, 1729-1792, also exerted genuine influence on the first stirrings of modern Hebrew poetry. Bibliography. Following are a selection of other books written by Rothschild. See.
Wow. All right, so this Lazato dude, he's the father of modern Hebrew literature. All right, following our selection of the books written by Ramchal. Ma'as Shimson, The Story of Samson, Lashon, The Nudim, A Tongue for Teaching, Migdal Oz, A Tower of Strength, Zohar Kohelet, the Zohar to the Book of Ecclesiastes, Shivim, Tikkunim, 70 Tikkunim, which parallels the 70 Tikkunai. Zohar. Zohar Tinyana, a second Zohar, no longer exists. Kalot Halon, or Kalut Halon, the principal elements of the Tree of Life, a synopsis of the Ari's basic work of Kabbalah. Ma'amar Hashem, a discourse on God. Ma'amar HaMerkava, a discourse on the chariot. Ma'amar Shem Membet, a discourse on the 42-letter name of God. Ma'amar Hadin, a discourse on divine judgment. Ma'amar HaChokmah, or Ma'amar HaChokmah, a discourse on wisdom. Focuses on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Passover from a Kabbalistic perspective. Ma'amar Hagula, a discourse on the redemption or the great redemption. Ma'amar Harnuvua, a discourse on prophecy. Mishkane Elyon, on Mishkane Elyon, exalted towers, a Kabbalistic understanding of the Holy Temple, with a depiction of the third temple's dimensions. Ein Yisrael, the well of Israel. Ein Yaakov, the well of Jacob. Milchamot Hashem, the wars of God, which depends. Kabbalah against its detractors. Kideo Hashem Zvakot, or Kinat Savayot, ardent defenses of Hashem, offers details about the redemption of Mashiach. Adir Bamarom, Mashiach, or no, Hashem is Hashem mighty on high, a commentary on the Idra Rabbah, the great threshing room section of Zohar. Igrot Piche Chachma Da'at, or Klale Pithe Chachma Da'at, letters to serve as an opening to wisdom and knowledge. Spells out and explains certain erudite principles of the Jewish faith, according to Kabbalah, Sefer Daniel, the Book of Daniel, an esoteric commentary to the biblical work. Tiktu Tefilot, 515 prayers, focuses on prayers for the revelation of God's sovereignty. Kitzur Kavano, abbreviated intentions, allows the reader to overview the Ari's recorded prayer intentions. Ma'amar HaVechuach, a discourse that serves as the argument, pits a Kabbalist against a rationalist as each tries to defend his way of thinking. Klak Pitche Chachma, or Kala Pitche Chachma, 138 openings to wisdom, one of Ramchal's most important works, in that it lays out his thinking about the symbolic nature of the Aries and Ramchal's own explanations of these symbols. Archat Klayalo Ilan, a dictionary of the principal elements to the Tree of Life. Klalim, principal elements, a series of short and pithy presentations of the main principles of the Kabbalistic system said outright. Da'at Tevunot, or Da'ath Tevunoth, the knowing heart, or knowing the reasons, a work that explains the duality of positive and negative that exists on all levels of reality. That this is the basis of God showing his face, hiding his face to and from humanity, and the dual existence of good and evil. Perish Midrash Rabbah, a commentary on Midrash Rabbah that is not Kabbalistic so much as symbolic. Derech Hashem, the way of God, one of his best known works, a succinct laying out of the fundamentals of the Jewish faith, touching upon mankind's obligations to this world and its relations to God. Ma'amar al Haggadot, a discourse on Agada, which is an explanation that Aggadic literature is not literal but metaphoric. Ma'amar Halkurim, or Ma'amar Haikarim, a discourse on the fundamentals, a short and succinct laying out of the fundamentals of the Jewish religion, like the way of God, that touches upon certain other themes. Derech Hakma, or Sefer Derech Hakma, the way of wisdom, which serves as a dialogue between a young person and a sage, with the latter setting out a lifetime course on Torah study, culminating in the study of Kabbalah. V'chach ha'chokhmah v'chassid, the argument between the sage and the pious man, which is actually a first draft of Mesilat Yesharim that only resurfaced recently. Mesilat Yesharim, or Mesilat Yesharim, The Path of the Just, his most famous work that enables its readers to grow in piety step by step, was written when he was 33 in 1740. Sefer HaDikduk, the Book of Grammar, Sefer HaHigayon, the Book of Logic, lays out the correct way to think and analyze. Ma'amar al-Hadrasha, a discourse on homilies, encourages the study of Kabbalah and Musar. Sefer HaMalitza, the Book of Style, offers the art of accurate writing and expression. Derek Tebunot, the way of understanding, explains the Talmudic way of thinking. Le Yesharim Tehillah, praise be to the upright, is a dramatic work. So this is cool. Is it? No, it sucks, but it's whatever.
Contents. Derech Hashem, the way of the name, is a philosophical text written around 1736 by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. Contents. Introduction. Part 1. Part 2.
Oh, it's
Part
bullshit.
3.
It's all kinds of
Part 4.
shit.
References.
Cool.
2. The way of God. Translate.
So we'll perhaps read all this shit someday, but not right now. Why? Because we got other shit to review. Elijah Beta Mozeg. Who's this guy? No one knows.
Elijah ben Amazek, April 24, 1823, February 6, 1900.
Well, this is pretty recent.
Was an Italian Sephardic Orthodox rabbi and renowned Jewish Kabbalist, highly respected in his day as one of Italy's most eminent Jewish scholars. He served for half a century as rabbi of the important Jewish community of Livorno, where the Piazza ben Amazek now commemorates his name and distinction. His major work is Israel and Humanity, 1863, which was translated into English by Dr. Mordecai Luria in 1995. Life. He was born in Livorno. The name Ben Amazek means son of Amazon. His father, Abraham, and mother, Clara, Moroccan Jewish natives of Fez, Morocco, died when Elisha was only 4 years old. He entered school early, where, besides instruction in the elementary sciences, he received tuition in Hebrew, English, and French, excelling in the latter. Ben Amazek was fluent in various languages, and devoted himself later to the study of philosophy and theology, which he endeavored to reconcile with each other. At the age of 25, he entered a commercial career, spending all his leisure time in study, but his natural tendency towards science and an active religious life soon caused him to abandon the pursuit of wealth. He then began to publish scientific and apologetic works, in which he revealed a great attachment to the Jewish religion, exhibiting at the same time a broad and liberal mind. His solicitude for Jewish traditions caused him to support Kabbalah. Later, Ben Amazek was appointed rabbi and professor of theology at the rabbinical school of his native town, and, his other occupations notwithstanding, he continued to write and defend Jewish traditions until his death, in Livorno. Religious universalism. Ben Amazek's works are noted for his free and uninhibited use of various non-Jewish religious sources, especially the New Testament and ancient pagan mythology. Ben Amazek even considered the Gospels to be a highly valuable Jewish midrash, comparable to the Talmudic Agadah. He respected Jesus as a wise rabbi and righteous Jew, but criticized the religious innovations of Paul and the invention of Christianity as a separate religion, which provoked the split of early Christianity from Judaism.
That's interesting.
In his theological works, Ben Amazek suggested to explain the Christian dogmas of the Trinity and Incarnation as an oversimplified and corrupt version of the Kabbalistic pantheistic doctrine of divine emanations. While he disagreed with the Trinitarian Christian theology, he considered it, unlike most other Orthodox rabbis, an erroneous misunderstanding of subtle Kabbalistic doctrines rather than a major deviation from monotheism.
That's interesting too.
Christianity is too monotheistic in comparison with the Kabbalah, which views all pagan deities in their essence as partial manifestations or faces of the absolute. Similarly, Ben Amazek criticized the Christian view of Jesus as incarnated God on monistic or pantheistic grounds. According to Ben Amazek's Kabbalistic view, the entire world is an incarnation of the Shekinah, the feminine aspect of divinity. He believed that Hinduism is closer in this respect to mystical Judaism than Christianity. Ben Amazek offered a novel mystical interpretation of Ludwig Feuerbach's atheistic philosophy. Feuerbach wrote that God is merely a product of human mind. Ben Amazek explained that Feuerbach is essentially right. However, what people call God is a limited human perception of the apathetic, infinite absolute. Indeed, dualistic, pantheistic, and highly complex views of the Godhead are common in the Kabbalistic literature. A number of known rabbis criticized Kabbalah for Gnostic-like dualistic views of God. Of particular interest was evolutionary theory and its universalist implications. Over time, Ben Amazek came to view Darwin's theory of the common descent of all life as evidence in support of Kabbalistic teachings, which he synthesized to offer a majestic vision of cosmic evolution, with radical implications for understanding the development of morality and religion itself. Ben Amazek's universalist views were recently promoted by Aidan Steensaltz, who made a somewhat similar attempt to unify all major world religions and philosophies. Cosmopolitanism and patriotism. Ben Amazek considered himself, simultaneously, an Italian patriot and a cosmopolitan. He believed that authentic mystical core of the Jewish tradition, which he called Hebraism as opposed to more isolationist exoteric Judaism, is profoundly universal and capable of uniting all world religions and nations into one brotherly cosmopolitan network. While Ben Amazek believed in the unique spiritual mission of the Jews, his idea of Jewish chosenness was far from narrow particularism. According to his worldview, the Jews are chosen to serve the humanity as a priestly people, by proving a common mystical ground that transcends the boundaries of the nations and religious traditions. He also emphasized the impact of other cultures on Judaism, starting from the ancient Egyptian paganism, as well as the great role of the proselytes in the Jewish history. Unlike some exclusivist Kabbalists, Ben Amazek believed that Kabbalah is a universal theology that unites all human beings and views them as equals. At the same time, Ben Amazek was a staunch Italian patriot. He even wrote a daring formulation, based on the Jewish declaration of faith, O Israelites, that you will always love Italy, that you will love her with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Apparently, according to his pantheistic philosophy, Ben Amazek viewed the Italian soil as a specially beloved expression of the Shekinah. Works.
Alright, that's cool. Emma Mafia, the fear of the opponent, a refutation of Leon of Medina's attacks upon the Kabbalah in 2 volumes. Ger Zadok, a righteous proselyte, critical notes on Tarbum Onkelos, Ibn 1858, Ner led David, Lamp of David, commentary on the Psalms, published together with the text. Mikra, Matrix of Scripture, commentary on the Pentateuch, containing critical, philological, archaeological, and scientific notes on the dogmas, history, laws, and customs of the ancient peoples, published together with the text under the title Torah Hashem. Leghorn in Paris, 1862-65. Tom Lashad, Refutation of Samuel David Lozado's Dialogue on the Kabbalah, Leghorn, 1863. Spinoza et la Kabbalah in l'Universe Israelite Paris. English translation, Spinoza and the Kabbalah, editions, Localement, Transcendentes, Puya Mares, 2024. Mibo Kilali, General Introduction to the Traditions of Judaism, published in Lebanon, 1864, pages 73 etc. Storia degli Esseni, Florence, 1865. Morale Juive et Morale Chrétienne, Examen comparatif suivi de quelques réflexions sur les principes de l'Islamisme, Paris, 1867. Jewish and Other Ethics, with a criticism of Mohammedism, English translation of the above. Theological Dogmatica and Apologetica, Leghorn, 1877. On Metaphysics, La Crème de la Guerre Denonce à la Humanité, Paris, 1881. This work won its author a medal. An honorable mention from the League of Peace and Freedom on the proposition of Jules Simon, Edouard Laboulaye, and Frederick Passé. Ya'ane Be'esh, he will answer through fire. Discussion of cremation according to the Bible and the Talmud, Leghorn, 1886. Israel et la Humanité, Israel and Humanity, discussion of universal religion and the roles of and relationships between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, 1914, posthumous, edited by Amy Hilary. All right, are you done? No. We've got the fucking Chabad shit. Let's see if they have anything on Parv.
Literally again, Amani means the palace, the celestial palace, the earthly palace, whatever it is.
All right, let's Rabbits and Esther. Bitch, you better be fucking. What's that bitch's name? What's that bitch's name? There was like a Julia Child.
Ashkenazim call it shalom. Sephardim call it chamin. To all Jews, it's that favorite stew that cooks all Friday nights.
This bitch can get it.
A delicious hot dish.
Is this bitch Ashkenazi or Sephardim? I think she's Sephardim. Can you just tell a bitch from her face? Yeah, but there's been a lot of intermixing or just people. Yeah, and it's weird. It's weird. There's this, like, I'm as pure, basically Ashkenazi as you can get. Really? Yeah. Like, if you look at my skin, like, it's like pretty white. But when there's an inner mixing between Ashkenazi and Sephardim, it's like I don't know. It's almost the same that happens when you have like an intermixed person between black and white. It's like it's different. Like you get some Ashkenazi people that look fucking blue, and then some Sephardic people who look fucking brown. Are you sure that this bitch is? No, she's probably Ashkenazi, actually. Really? Yeah. But she could be. a little bit of both. A lot of people are.
Deal. An early Talmudic commentator writes that one who does not eat shallot or chamin on Shabbos is suspect of being a heretic. That seems like an extreme label. We must remember that there was an unfortunate rift caused by an ancient sect called the Tzaddokim, who broke away from traditional Judaism. According to their biblical interpretation, it was forbidden to have any type of flame on Shabbos, even if it was kindled on Friday. Therefore, traditional Judaism made it a point to have a hot dish on Shabbos that was sitting on the fire all Friday night, to demonstrate their view that the prohibition is only on kindling the fire on Shabbos. It is, however, permissible to have a flame if it was started on Friday. Nevertheless, our sages were concerned one might forget to shuffle the coals or raise the flame, and they insisted that we have some type of covering on the fire. Today, to remind us to avoid the fire, we use what is called a blech, which is Yiddish for a piece of tin. And immediately before candle lighting, we place on it our hot dishes, our shallot, our chicken soup, and anything else we would like should remain warm for Shabbos. I wanted to share this piece of history with you, because many times we keep a tradition, and it's interesting to know just how it got started. Now let's get started at our shallot.
Is this lady Sephardic? I think she's mixed.
Kidney, pinto, and AB, 1 cup of each. And then I add a half a cup of baby lima and a half a cup of barley. I have soaked them overnight to soften them. And in the morning, I drain it, discard any stones or dirt, and place it in an 8-quart pot.
You're watching Cholent. That's not parov.
And then I cover it with water about an inch.
I know. Why did it say? Why was this under when I searched? I don't know.
Add 1.5
Parv.
to 2 pounds of meat.
Oh, for
and 2
parv
large
Cholent.
meatballs.
Omit the meat
I'm
and
not
meat
using a
bones.
piece of meat
There you go.
that's
That's why
one
it shows
piece.
up.
This way, when I serve it at the table, I slice it, and the meat doesn't fall apart in the Cholent.
Lady, did you know I gotta take a shit? Allegedly.
Most people will place their onion,
How old
garlic,
is
and all
this?
their spices directly into the Cholent pot.
This lady's
But I will share with you a new twist.
this
Put
like
3
20
onions
years old.
into your food processor, 5 cloves of garlic, 1/4 cup of ketchup or a fresh tomato,
Ketchup.
2 tablespoons of salt,
Salt.
1 teaspoon of pepper, and a bunch of my favorite herb, cilantro. And process this. Now pour this mixture directly into your Cholent pot. This way, you'll have an even texture, no particles floating around, and when you serve it on Shabbos, you won't have to remove the large onions, garlic, or any little pieces. Add this mixture to the Cholent pot and bring to a boil. Reduce heat and simmer on a low flame for 3 hours. Then we add 7 to 8 cubed potatoes and continue to simmer for another hour. About an hour before Shabbos, we place the Cholent on the fire, making sure that it is covered with about an inch of all the ingredients. This is my basic Cholent.
Cool, lady. Do
I
you know?
have made a perfect vegetarian Cholent simply by omitting
Oh.
meat and meatballs. And I must
What
tell you,
is it? This lady's, I think, a mixture of Ashkenazi and Sephardic. Really? If anything, she's got a lot of makeup on. She's pretty dark. Does it matter? No. So why you wouldn't do this with a human? You wouldn't do this with a human. You wouldn't do this with a black or white person. You wouldn't be like, oh, this person's mixed. So why are you doing it with this lady's? That's an interesting question to myself. I mean, black and white people don't really have that many different customs, but Ashkenazi and Jew and Sephardi definitely do. It's like arguably 2 different fucking religions, but I get it. They're just different traditions. So, when you see a person, you can tell like what their traditions are. You don't do that with black and white people. At least I don't, and like most people don't. But we do that within Judaism. Is it right to do? I just want to know what the fucking minchag is, like what their traditions are. So That's why I do it.
It is sensational. In our synagogue, the Seabridge Jewish Center, cholent is a specialty our congregants look forward to. We serve it together with gefilte fish and kugel as a special treat in honor of the Shabbos when we bless the new month called Rosh Chodesh.
All right, so what is that, lady? She's probably asking nothing. I didn't take a shit though, in case anybody was unaware of that. All right, are you done? Where'd you leave? Is that the end of your story? No, I might have to take a time out though. But is that the end of your story? No.
And his name is, to look again, the white one of faith. What does that mean? Rashi says here, the Sorah shall face red. Ultimately, again, he is the Sorah face red. And I was like, this seems to lead back into what we saw before yesterday's daf. That where does Mashiach live? Mashiach lives by the deeds of Roman. He's a leper. What does it mean that he's a leper of the house of Rebbe? Rebbe was a direct descendant of David Azalach. So he's a leper, essentially a leper from the house of David, a leper from the house of Rebbe. Incredible. The Gemara says, Shemo Shne'emar Achim Chavinu Nasa Machavinu Savanu Anachnu Kashu Kujulu Nakua Mukalakimu Aram Nachnu Ani Aram Nachnu Ki Min Chayru. This is incredible. So Nachman says, if Mashiach is someone who is alive, currently alive, Kiyon Ano, then he's probably someone like me. Okay, now let's say that requires a little bit of interpretation, right? It's always good to be confident, right? If Mashiach is someone who's also living, it's probably like me. What does that mean? Rav Nachman wasn't proclaiming himself Mashiach. What Rav Nachman was saying was the following: that what's Rav Nachman represent? Number one, he was the son-in-law of the Reish Galusa, so he had power. Number two, he had Torah. So what Rav Nachman was saying was he was rejecting this notion of Mashiach being the leper by the gates of Rome, but rather understanding that Mashiach is someone counted. I will say, it's interesting to think about this. I think in our mind, we never think of Mashiach as being the leper by the gates of Rome. We think about Mashiach as being someone great. Because after all, he's got to reveal his identity. Everyone has to accept him. How it's going to happen will be very interesting to see. But Jonathan says, if Mashiach is alive, he's probably someone like you, with connections and with Torah. Even Chayot, he's on Rabbi Rothschild. It's not true. If Mashiach is someone like the living, right? If you want to say like he resembles someone who's currently alive, he's more like Rabbi Hudanasi. It's like Rabbi Hudanasi. In Mesia, if he's someone like he's dead, he goes Daniel Ish Chanudos. He must be like someone who's like Daniel. Now, what's Rashi points out over here? Why like Daniel? If you look at Rashi says over here, Imin Chayu Kimin Kigon Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Mashiach also Shechayim Achshav. From the denominator between Rabbi Nasi and Daniel is they both suffered. Right? Rabbi Nasi suffered from terrible intestinal illness that ultimately claims his life, and Daniel suffered a lot in his life also, right? Being the trusted servant of the Nebuchadnezzar was not easy. Being thrown into a lion den, not easy. Right? So the ideal here, the first thing over here is Mashiach is someone who is battle tested. He was battle tested. I will say this goes back before to the conversation between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan as well. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Let Mashiach come. I don't want to see him." Rish Lakish says, "What's your problem? You think that because the Messianic era is going to be difficult, life is difficult. And I will say, but you know what the secret I think that we learn as we go on in life is we become great not despite our difficulties. We become great because of our difficulties. If you think about it, by the way. It's not. No one ever says, you know what? I really became who I am because of the brachos that I have. I have so many brachos, and because of all those brachos really pushed me to excellence. In fact, my parents brachos was the opposite. The challenge with brachos is brachos sometimes have the danger of keeping us tethered to mediocrity. Because hey, life is good, everything is good. People become great because of their challenges, not because of their blessings. So that's what Yishai is saying to me. I think that's what's happening over here. The Gemara is saying, understand Mashiach is someone who suffers. You can't become a Mashiach with an easy life. You cannot become a Mashiach because you always take the easy path. You can't take Mashiach every single time things get difficult. You run the other way. That's not how it works. Mashiach is someone who suffers, battles through it, makes it through on the other side, scarred, battled, and bruised, but stronger because of it. Listen, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. We so often spend our lives running away from difficulty. Challenge comes. Let me find the other way. It's uncomfortable. Let me run the other way. I don't like it. Let me run the other way. Instead of saying, no, this is what makes me great. The comfort doesn't make me great. The bracha doesn't make me great. Challenge makes me great. And when it presents itself, you say, I got this. I got this. I'm not running. I'll stare it down and I'll go right through it. That's where greatness comes from. That's where Mashiach comes from. That's where Rabbi Rothschild comes from. That's where Daniel comes from. Well, say, think about the life of any single great person through the history of Klal Yisrael, and ask yourself one simple question: do they have an easy life? The answer, absolute certainty, the answer is no. No, there is not one great person throughout the history of our people who has had an easy life. And it's not, oh look, he becomes great despite the difficulties. No, that's a false statement. They didn't become great despite the difficulties. They became great because of the difficulties. Rabbi Yehuda, Daniel, Mashiach, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Sariminu. It doesn't matter. Plug in the name of every single great person, the narrative is the same. Incredible. Already we got Rav. I think we're just going to do some head, maybe like through Pesach. We'll just whatever. Maybe through Shavuos. The rest is as follows. So much. Remember the Rav. I'll see if there's Baruch the hand will have David Achmed. So we'll say it's going to be another David HaMelech. This is exciting. Right? It's going to be another David HaMelech. When Mashiach, comes, remember, part of what Mashiach comes is part of what we're going to do also, what we have not done purposely by the way we're going to get to it is we're going to go through the roundup. Because remember again, there's like a lot of stuff that's happening over here. There's Chavei Mashiach Ben Hassan, there's Mashiach, there's Tchias HaMesim, there's this thing called Olam Haba, which may be where you go after you die, but it may also be what's called the period after Mashiach comes, and there's restoration of Davidic monarchy. For all of those events, the Gemara hasn't really been clear on because it's so subject to controversy. We're going to get to the timeline also. But one of the Gemara says is there's restoration of the Davidic monarchy, which means, amazingly enough, there's another David HaMelech. Another David HaMelech. So Gemara says, Shneimar, ve'edu es Hashem Elokeichem, ve'Elokeichem, ve'ez David Malkam asher akim lahem. And you will write, and you will serve David, who I will establish in future tense. It doesn't say I did establish, I will establish, so there'll be another David HaMelech in the future. I only have about Bayir, I said David Abdi, Nasiba Abdi Oldon. But we already have David HaMelech, so it means we know David HaMelech. You're right, Kikum Kesar, Upal Kesar. It's kind of like a king and an assistant king. So it says, get ready for this, There'll be, after Mashiach, there'll be restoration of Davidic monarchy. There's going to be a new Davidic king. Well, there's also going to be Tchias HaMesim. So what's going to happen with former David HaMelech? He's going to be the assistant king. Listen, by the way, if former David HaMelech is the assistant king, can you imagine who the new king is going to be? Can you just imagine what that absolutely is going to be like? So new king, new Davidic king, and former David HaMelech, or first David HaMelech, ultimately again, he's going to be the shady though. He's going to be the assistant king. Incredible. Darsha Smaloi, Maidixiv, Hi, Hamis Adon Osim Hashem, Lama Zet Lachem Yom Hashem, Choshech Ar. So we'll say, what is this? So again, it's talking about desiring for the Yom Hashem Messianic era. It'll be a day of light, darkness, and not light. What does this mean? Mashal Targova, Atalation with Sapar. So there was a story, right? It's like a mashal of a tanagal is a chicken. Atalef is a bat. It's a bat. They're both waiting for daybreak. How many times we go about Atalef? So the chicken said to the bat, he says, I need mitzvah ora sha'ora shali. So the chicken says, the rooster says, listen, I'm waiting for the morning because it makes it, the morning is my thing, right? I do mornings, right? That's like, oh, I wish I did mornings, right? I do mornings. I do mornings. In other words, when the morning comes, I crow. That's my thing, right? But bad. You don't use light. So what are you doing? What are you doing with the morning? So it's a tap on test 99. But Rashi says over here, I'm sorry, before we go to Tzad, sorry. The last Rashi on 98b, Sha'or Shalim, Shish Ninaim Yos, Tisi Nenes, Kaki Sham Zabal and Kula, Shiyom Hashem Yahar, Avala Opiko Babim, Lama Mekhavim also, Sharila Mahosha Below. So it's like cloud is always in the Santa Gara, why? Because for us it's going to be light. For the nations of the world, it's not going to be light. For the nations of the world, it's going to be darkness. And I will say, so again, what we spoke about before, because the light is going to be this upset of power. So Klal Yisrael is the easter, and the nations of the world are the back. So it says there was this min, this non-believer said Rabbi Yavo. He must say Asim Mashiach. Yes, maybe yes, Rabbi Yavo. What is Mashiach coming? Amalei l'chichafu l'hu chashecha v'hanu inshi. When darkness develops upon you, the old take off of him. That's when Mashiach will come. Amalei milat kalais. So the min said to Rabbi Yavo, "You're cursing." I'm asking a question. Why are you cursing me? Normally, Krok said, no, I'm not cursing. I'm telling you a pasuk. What's the pasuk? Kimine achoshi chichas haaretz va'arafa lumin va'alecha yisrach Hashem u'kvoda alecha yirah. Because again, the pasuk describes Messianic era is light for Klal Yisrael, darkness for the nations. I'm telling you, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, you also Mashiach, I love Shana. I will say now, just enough, you are beginning discussion about the duration of Yemos Mashiach. How long does the Messianic era go on for? What I was supposed to ask something. It's interesting that the way the Gemara seems to be operating right now is that, like I said, there's Chavle Mashiach, the Messianic era, Yemos Mashiach, and then after Yemos Mashiach, that begins Olam Haba, the world to come. So how long does Messianic era go on for? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Mashiach, I bought him for 40 years. Shnei Amar, it's plays all the time, and we don't necessarily think about what it's actually saying, right? 40 years, Akut B'dar. So again, that's reference to Messianic era. Evelyn says, Omer Shivim Shana 70 years Shnei Amar, Hayaba Yamahu, V'nishkafas Sur Shivim Shana Kimi Melech. So the Gemara says, Eizu Melech Miyuchad, Hadi Omer Zel Mashiach. Okay, Rabbi says, Shalosh Doros, 3 generations. 3 generations, Shalosh Doros. Shnei Amar, Yira'ucha Im Shemesh, V'lifnei Yareach Dar Dogim. And Hillel says, Ein lahem Mashiach Yisrael. So it's the Rabbi Hillel you saw before. Rabbi Hillel says, Chevra, enough. There is no greatness waiting for us in the Messianic era. The Gemara says, why should we already enjoyed the benefits of the Messianic era during the days of Chizkiah. Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi says, listen to this, Shari Le Mar Rabbi Hillel. So essentially, Rabbi Hillel, God should forgive you. How can we even say such a thing like that? To say that Mashiach, that we're not going to enjoy the benefits of Mashiach, absolutely unequivocally wrong. Chizkiah Amos, I'll tell you, it's very simple. When did Chizkiah live? The Bayis Rishon. Chizkiah was king during the days of the first days of Mikdash. Because Zechariah comes to be the Bayis Shini V'Amar, Gili Ma'od Bas Sion, Hari Bas Yushalayim, Hine Malkechi Abodacha, Tzadik Tinosha, U'ari Barochi V'Achamor V'Algir V'Asan Asan. So again, so the Gemara Yosef says it's not true. I'll tell you why. Chizkiah lived during the times of the first base of Mikdash. Yet Zechariah is prophesizing during the days of the second base of Mikdash and telling us that what? Mashiach is going to come. So you see from here again that even the Navi understood that Mashiach is still going to come. Tanya Yidach, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, you want Mashiach, Rabbi Eliezer says, the Messianic era lasts 40 years. Sifha says, by the month. Shaddai says, Hashem afflicted you, he deprived you, and he gave you money for 40 years. Sifha Samchinu, Kimos Sanu, Shnos Re'ira. Give us joy corresponding to the number of years that you afflicted us. You see much of affliction, as affliction by one, which was consumed for 40 years, and Hashem will save us from affliction when Messianic era 40 years. So those that Dalin males, Shalom. Ultimately, again, it's 400 years. Sifat that says over here, Ve'ivdum or Ve'inu of some Arba male Shalom. Right by Israel will abuse us for 400 years. Samchinu Kimos Sanu. And ultimately, we'll have symbolic years of our affliction. Affliction went on for 400 years. You must not share for 400 years. Rabbi says, this is Gimel Meos Vashisha the Chamishah. Minimum Sachara. Messianic era looks at the 365 years, corresponding to the number of days in a year. Shnei Amar Yom Natam Balibi Ushtos Ulad Ulibar. What's actually quite beautiful? It's almost as if that Hashem will make up for all of the difficulties and suffering that we have endured over the years. Christian values. My Yom HaKabbalah. Rabbi Yochanan, I will say first one line. The Levi Galisi, the environment like I will say is interesting. When it comes to the messianic secret, so to speak, Hashem keeps it close to the chest. Right? Hashem says that ultimately, again, my heart knows, but even the rest of my lips don't know. The Levi Galisi, the Malachi Asharis Lo Galisi. This is incredible. That Hashem says, I know Mashiach is coming, but I don't even reveal it to the Malachim. Which also goes back to yesterday's daf, right? When Rabbi Yeshua Levi asked Eliyahu Hanavi, when is Mashiach coming? And Eliyahu Hanavi himself was the messenger, right? To herald the coming of Mashiach said, I don't know. So it goes like, Tanya Din Breed, Rabbi Abel. What's the second white line? You want some Mashiach to Yisrael? Shivas Avachim Shana. Incredible. You want some Mashiach goes on 7,000 years. That sounds good. Let's go with that one, right? Hey, Messianic, there is 7,000. Also, where does this come from? The steps. I'm sorry. Right? Then this is actually beautiful. Listen to this. Shinei Emar, Umesos Chasan Al Kala. How beautiful is this? What I'm saying. There's ultimately again. So I'm sorry. Umesos Chasan Al Kala. Yosis Alayich Hashem Elokecha. The Baruch will rejoice over us like a chasan does a kala. Just like that chasan and kala have sheva brachas. So in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, one day is like 1,000 years. So therefore, so to speak, Messianic era is like sheva brachas. So it's such a beautiful idea. The Messianic era is like the sheva brachas. It'll go on for 7,000 years.
All right, folks, I'm back. Coming. So that Rebbitzin Esther Winter, you think? Yeah, she's Ashkenazi, I think. Really? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. It does matter though. Why? She gonna wish me good Shabbat, good Shabbos, and she said Shabbos, but I don't know. She got something in her. Anyway, I'll give her something. All right, is that the end of your story? Because it kind of sucked. Yeah. So. I imagined a day where all food is part of. Yo, dog, please steel man this for me. A world where all food, all kosher food is part of. How could that happen? What are the major challenges? You don't have to do this like Joey Diaz. Just do it normally, please.
No one has any idea about the greatness that is in store. No one has any idea about the beauty that is waiting for us in all of that. So the Gemara goes back to
all right. I might be slightly tripping over the wording. Somebody flag the ambiguity once and then actually do the thing. When you say a world where all food, is it a world where everyone is fully fed? No. Literal side type if I take on. No, where all food is part of. Okay, got it. Thanks for the correction. You mean a word where all food is part of, no meat, dairy distinction at all. All right, let's steel man that seriously, not halakhic hand waving. Steel man thesis: a world where all food is biologically, technologically, and even halakhically imaginable, but it requires redefining what counts as meat and milk at the source level, not any loopholes. How could a fully parve world happen? No animal-derived tissue at all. Parve means no animal flesh, no animal milk, no derivatives, rennet, gelatin, etc. So the core move is humanity exits animal agriculture entirely. Not vegetarian vibes, post-animal vibes. Protein without animals. This is already partially here. Precision fermentation, yeast or bacteria produce casein-like proteins, whey analogs, egg white proteins. Halakhic steelman, no animal source parve. Fungi-based protein, mycoprotein, algae, legumes, and engineered amino acid completeness. If no animal ever existed in the process, there's nothing Bessar or Chalavi to classify. Milk without milk. Milk is halakhically milk because it is secreted from a kosher animal through biological mammary processes. So, synthetic milk made from microbes, plant emulsions engineered to behave identically. Steelman claim, if there is no animal secretion, there is no isser. Taste is irrelevant, source is everything. Meat without meat. Lab grown meat is tricky halakhically, very tricky. To get a fully parve world, the Steelman path has no animal starter cells, entirely synthetic or fungal muscle analogs. Texture, amino profile, Maillard reactions, all simulated. Not cultured meat, but designed meat like food. At that point, burger is just branding. Major challenges, real ones. Halakhic identity crisis. Even if technically parv, ma'at ayin, appearance issues. I don't give a shit about that. Eat whatever the fuck you want. Really? Yeah. When you're at fucking Steven Spielberg's mother's milkshake restaurant, they don't like say like they don't put a fucking almond in your milk. Really? I don't fucking know, but they didn't. The cheeseburger is just a cheeseburger. I think they do reference it as an Impossible Burger, but nevertheless, when they put it down, they don't have like the box Impossible Burger, so that the people around you, they know that they're in a fucking milkshake restaurant and they're not going to serve meat. Halakhic identity crisis, even carb, Marit iron appearance issues, confusion in kitchens, psychological resistance. Rabbis would need to rule taste does not equal essence, which Judaism already believes, but not emotionally. Human attachment to animals, this is deeper than food. Tradition, power, sacrifice, symbolism, control over life. Moving to parv-only food means no carbonate as we know them. That's not a diet shift, that's a theological earthquake. Beit HaMikdash implications. Steelman tensions. Torah assumes animal carbonate. A parv world implies either symbolic carbonate, a future halakhic transformation, or carbonate only in ritual, not diet. That's a big M Mashkiach level reinterpretation. Economic collapse and rebuild. Who gives a shit? Entire livestock industries disappear. Tough shit. Rural economies must be retooled. We'll make sure of that. Massive transition, pain possible but not free. Strongest steelman payoff. Why a fully parv world is compelling. One set of dishes forever. No bas or challah of timing issues. No shechita. No tsar ba'alel. No tsar ba'ale chayim. Universal kosher baseline. It's basically kashrut with the training wheels removed. Final Steelman line. A fully parv world doesn't abolish kashrut. It completes its internal logic by removing animal dependence entirely. Exactly. All right. Is that the end of what you want to say? No. I was thinking about like teaching children, and I heard this motherfucker the other day say, yesterday, he said something like, we would never tell a child that they are bad. We would tell a child that maybe they're not acting correctly, but inertly, the child is not bad. Some kids are little shits. They're not inherently bad. Maybe they were taught incorrectly or they aren't behaving correctly, but they aren't inherently bad. And I agree with that. I was thinking as well, when I was a little kid, one class, you didn't get grades back then, but I struggled with was computers, believe it or not. I mean, like, I'm a king of computers, but it's funny, like all of the things at which I struggled, there's an argument to be made. I've overcome those struggles. And I don't know why computers were so difficult. I was scared. I didn't like the teacher. That's a big thing. If you don't like the teacher, I had this ancient history teacher, and man, we would have run through a wall for this motherfucker. But then I'd have like other teachers who I just didn't jive with, and it's just that's how it is. The teacher, I almost think the teacher can help a student overcome a subject. If you have a really interesting teacher or even a really attractive teacher, though that doesn't matter as much, but like people pay attention to attractive people, they will do everything that they can to make sure that they learn the material and they'll ask questions. If you have a boring teacher, they're just gonna just go through the motions. And I can tell you that very truthfully. Additionally, you get some teachers who it might not be their subject, but they're just teaching it. And, they may be a new teacher. I've learned at least something from every single teacher I've ever had. And previously on the stream, I have named all my teachers and that I've been able to. And they've all impacted me in one way or another. But I remember as a little kid, computers were so. We had a computer, but it was so scary to me that my mom had to come into class and talk with the teacher. And that never happened again. Never, ever, ever did my parents ever come into school and talk with the teacher. But my mom did with this one teacher. And that teacher did not end up, I don't think it was because of my parents, but she was not, this person was not there later. I mean, they went and did something. And then I had another teacher who taught computers, and I didn't even know it, but I loved this teacher. And I built my first website with this teacher. That was another thing. Computers are expensive, and I went to private schools my whole life, and they weren't like always that technologically updated. And that was a huge gap. There were like 6 years of my life where I didn't really use computers. I did at home, but the computers that we had weren't very good. And I would use them every little bit, and then when I got to be older, I saw the gap, and like people I knew, my peers were really great with computers and software because I had it, and I did not. And that was a huge gap. And I mean, here I am. I have certifications in computers with difficult exams, and it's just one of those things where you just do the best with what you have. But it's funny, like computers, I'm like pretty good with computers. I've been an app developer. I have certifications in computing and computing adjacent fields. I've launched apps on the App Store and Google Play. I use more computers, I think, than any person on themselves. I live stream more than anybody. Yet I struggled with computers. And to the point where you didn't get an F for computers, but I would have. But then I was able to I remember I would spend recess building a website, and after school, the first ever digital camera I ever saw, our teacher had, and I took a picture. I still remember the picture that I took, and I put it on the website, and the teacher had everybody come around my computer, and we could see a picture from the outside on a computer, and that was mind-blowing. It wasn't scanned. It was it was amazing. And she wasn't there that long, but she was, I feel like I learned a lot from her and got comfortable with computers, but then I lost the comfort. That's just how it is. So music, I had a very difficult time with music, and I was with really talented kids and boys, and I think that they knew more music theory than I did, and that caused me issues. I mean, composition, composing my own music, was difficult for me because I couldn't always play it the way that I wanted, and that caused issues, and I couldn't hear it. Torah, really bad, really, really bad Torah student. Really, yeah. But I do remember I had an exam on Bereshit, and my mom read me all of Bereshit one night to try to see if I could really get it, and then just it was a lot though. I remember surprised she read all 40 chapters. At that point, she was just like, "You're gonna get it after this." Really? Yeah, it just wasn't. She worked with me though. The one night, never, ever, rarely ever out. My parents always felt like the material was almost too advanced for them. I feel, and that's why they're paying. Because so I have teachers. An interesting thing my school had, they would at the beginning of the school year, the teacher would go up and put their home telephone number on the board and say, "If you ever have any questions, call us." And did you ever call them? I think maybe once, but I don't think so. I remember one kid called, and that kid was like, the teacher was thrilled, and that kid was like, that changed the kids, how the teacher viewed the kid, because it showed he was trying. But my parents always said, "Look, if you have a question, call your teacher." But nobody's got the balls to do that. And then one teacher was like, "If you can call me whatever you want, but if you call me and you speak to my wife and you insult her, I'm coming after you." He was so fucking serious that like nobody wanted to call this fucking kid, this fucking guy. Really, yeah. Anyway, so I still wouldn't call that motherfucker's house. Really, he put a lot of fear in us because he didn't want people prank calling him or something like that. I don't know. That was a big thing. Is that the end of your story? Because it's really boring. No, so computers. I was not good with computers. I was not good with math. Why? Math is such a all or nothing thing that if I made one small slight mistake, it would come crumbling, and that always caused me a lot of fear. I don't feel that math tests are that fair in a lot of ways, because that's why I was so much more into humanities, because if I made a slight mistake, the whole essay doesn't crumble. But if I make a small mistake in a math proof, the whole proof crumbles. And you'll get a 0 or whatever. And so I was just like, I don't want to take the risk. And I feared that. And I know a lot of other people did as well. And it was almost like there should be something that in math there's not, but it's almost like if you make that small mistake, you could still get, I mean, I guess teachers could give partial credit for things, but it's like if it's wrong, it's wrong. And I get that. So there was Torah, computers, math, and foreign language. I was never good at those things. What were you good? I was decent at English, but even now, I think I could have been better. I like to write. I like poetry. I liked. But like, here's an example. We had this thing where we had to memorize poems and then perform them. And some of these poems were like 5 pages long, and some of them were short. Well, which one do you think I want to take? The short one, because I don't have to memorize that much. And some people would just do long periods because their brothers had those poems from years before, and they would like hear them in the household. That was another thing, a big thing, a huge disadvantage to not have siblings. And I've said this before, if you are a parent and once you get one kid through, the rest is a lot easier because you know what's coming. You've seen the test before. But if it's your first time or your only child, it's very difficult. All right. So what else? With what else did you struggle? Computers, math, foreign language, and Torah. And now we're learning Torah. Are we? Arguably,
What does that mean?
in some ways.
And what's the thing
All right,
about
are you
the
done?
song? You know the jokes.
You want to make the word paro? Yeah.
It says, make your Torah like a
Well,
song.
that's Torah.
Make your Torah like a song. So in other words, once again, same idea. Create yourself
I
your Torah,
guess.
chazer your Torah.
You're
Make your
fired.
Torah-
Go fuck
make your
yourself.
Torah worse. Make your Torah